Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. V.K. Reddy from NIT Rourkela. Today we will discuss Indian writing in English. As part of this, we would discuss Indian theatre in English. The content is written by Dr. Surabhi Sharma, and this module would focus on Indian theatre in English. Indian theatre in English has a long history and it dates back to Sanskrit literature and drama. Drama as an art form has a long history of its origins and development in this country. The earliest plays were primarily written in Sanskrit, which were taken from Vedas and Upanishads. These early Sanskrit plays dates back to the 1st century of the Christian era. Diverged in different subject matters, they all subscribe to a common dramatic theory and practice of Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra is an ancient Indian treatise on theatrical activities, like the poetics for the West. The Natya Shastra is an integral part of the Indian theatrical tradition. In Sanskrit drama tradition, we have few prominent personalities like Bhasa, Bhavabhuti, Bhattanarayan, Vishakadatta and Kalidasa, to name a few. Kalidasa's Shakuntala is so immense, Western dramatists like Goethe had mentioned about Kalidasa in his play called Faust. However, gradually the Sanskrit tradition and Sanskrit drama is being overshadowed by regional languages and its plays. The roots of Indian theatre goes back to Natya Shastra. As I said, Natya Shastra is one of the most pioneering texts in Indian theatre tradition. Natya Shastra, which is written by sage Bharata, is considered to be the 5th Veda of Indian tradition. Natya Shastra deals with issues like acting, dance, costumes, music, dramaturgy, makeup, props, the reciprocal relationship between performers and the spectators, so on and so forth. Natya Shastra emphasizes the importance of acting, which has two aspects, including realistic and conventional. It contains a detailed account of abhinaya, music, dance and various forms of stage representation. Another important aspect of treatise is its emphasis on rasa theory. Abhinaya or the performance produces rasa or aesthetic pleasure. It does so by drawing together the other elements of play such as dialogues, costume, music, gestures, emotions and the setting. So now, as part of great Indian theatrical tradition, let's look at various forms of Indian traditions that are existing in this country. Traditions like Kutiyatam from Kerala, Bhavai in Gujarat, Bhuvana and Ankiya Nuts from Assam, Swang in Haryana and parts of Uttar Pradesh, and Malwa, Yakshagana from Karnataka, Jatra in Bengal and also in Kathakali from Kerala. These are some of the examples of Indian traditional theatre. Apart from this traditional theatre, we have a great history of Indian puppet theatre. Puppetry is one of the ancient forms of entertainment in this country. The history of puppetry goes back to the 5th century BC. Puppetry is more popular in states like Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Odisha. The themes of puppet theatre are based on the tales of Ramayana and Mahabharata. The early puppet theatre in this country represented the stories of great tales of great kings, heroes from mythological stories. These puppets are made with leather and its movement is controlled by a string. Satire, fantasy, reality and farce are part of this great puppet show tradition. Another theatre tradition called Indian street theatre, which is also quite popular among the masses. Indian street theatre has been popular in some of the regions of this country. This tradition is mainly concerned about representing the feelings of common people. It is often known as the theatre by the people and theatre for the people. This street theatre mainly focuses on problems of the common man, middle classes and youth. It has become popular means of expressing the social, political, economic conditions of people in independent India. More than a form of entertainment, Indian street theatre is more focused on representing economical, political and social concerns of the masses. One of the earliest example of Indian street theatre is Charge Street, which is written in 1949 and performed in Calcutta for a group of audience consisting of thousands of workers. Street theatre has been successful in appealing to the minds of common people as it represents their stories and in their own language and allows them to be part of it. Another leading contributor to the Indian street theatre is Safdar Hashmi, who had formed an association called Jananatya Manch in 1973 to generate awareness on various political issues. Jananatya Manch has performed many street plays including Women, Halla Bol, Machine, etc. to create awareness among the masses on various political and social issues. This Indian street theatre has played a pivotal role in Indian theatre tradition. Street theatre has also become popular in South India with the prominent personality like Chandrasekhar Patil and many others who have used this theatre tradition to satirize the social evils. In states like Kerala, Assam, Tamil Nadu, it has become a popular form of communication with the masses. Thus, the street theatre movement in India has a political goal and work for the development and to uplift the oppressed sections of this country. In the present time, the street theatre has become a dominant mode of expression by many individuals and organizations to create awareness on various issues like HIV, family planning, corruption, violence on women, etc. Eminent theatre personalities such as Utpal Datta, Badal Sarkar also support this mode of theatre and have worked extensively on these themes. So, apart from these great theatre traditions, we have very interesting theatre tradition called mobile theatre. This mobile theatre tradition has come from Assam. As part of this tradition, there is a group of actors for staging plays who travel from place to place along with the singers, crew, musicians and dancers. The whole crew travel together. Even the props, tents and the chairs are taken along with the crew. We have a prominent personality from this tradition called Achut Lahkar. He is also known as the father of Indian mobile theatre. As part of this Indian mobile theatre, the first play was staged on 2nd October 1963 in Pathshala, Assam. So far, we have looked at great Indian theatre traditions. Now, let's look at Indian drama in English. Indian drama and English seems to be a new phenomenon. Indian drama in English came into existence only after the influence of British drama in the 18th century, when the Britishers introduced English in India mainly for their own benefits. The main intention was to nurture a group of young bureaucrats to understand, to rule the country. However, it has become a boon for the Indian masses. They have learned language, they were exposed to English language, English literature and English drama. Gradually, the Indians came to be influenced by the rich culture and literature traditions of the Britishers, leading to a cultural encounter and exchange of ideas. The British theatre groups have performed various plays in India, including plays by Shakespeare at Madras, Calcutta and Bombay. These performances and these traditions have encouraged and motivated Indians to write drama in their own languages as well as in English. Under the Western impact, many playwrights in India started writing plays in English. The first play in English was written by Krishna Mohan Banerjee, entitled as The Persecuted in 1831. However, the real journey of Indian English drama began with Michael Madhusudan Dutt. His drama called Is This Called Civilization, which appeared on the literary horizon in 1871. But the growth of genre has been very slow since its inception. Only in the contemporary period we have seen the emergence of few playwrights writing plays originally in English and representing the various aspects of Indian society, and thereby supplementing to the notion of theatre is a mirror to the society. There are many reasons why Indian English drama has failed to receive the popularity that it deserves, or why it has failed to create a momentum in Indian theatre tradition. One of the major reasons for this seems to be the fact that the people in India, especially from rural and semi-urban areas, are still unable to accept English as a mode of communication. The plays written in English are mostly influenced by Western realism in terms of clothing, communication, and approach to life, and so on. So the majority of Indian audience do not feel comfortable and personal connect with Indian English drama. They can accept the stage setting, construction, aura, milieu, but not English language and lifestyle that it presented. For them, these plays lack natural flavor. Hence, these plays do not appeal to their minds. Another reason for their lack of popularity is that the actors having the mother tongue influence who fail to deliver the dialogues convincingly in English, thus leading to the failure of a performance. However, after long silence of many decades, Indian drama in English gathered a momentum in 20th century. This was also a period known as the post-colonial period of Indian drama. The plays written during this period follow the pattern of Western realism, focus on the social, political, economic changes and the problems of the masses. Thus, Indian drama in English is a recent development with the playwrights like Mahesh Dattani, Manjula Padmanabhan, Deena Mehta, Abhishek Majumdar, Badal Sarkar, Asif Karimbai, Pratap Sharma, who have started scripting plays in English. All these writers belong to the post-colonial period of Indian drama, and they have contributed a substantial number of plays to this new genre. These plays have achieved popularity among the urban youths, middle classes, adults, but yet to reach the rural audience. However, these plays do not follow the pattern prescribed by the Natya Shastra. Mostly, they follow the Western realistic tradition to reflect the existing socio-political issues. Thus, Indian drama in English is a recent development with the playwrights like Mahesh Dattani, Manjula Padmanabhan, Deena Mehta, Abhishek Majumdar, Asif Karimboy, Pratap Sharma, who have started scripting plays in English. All these prominent personalities belong to the post-colonial period, and they have attempted to touch upon a new genre altogether. These plays have achieved popularity among the youth, adults and middle classes, but yet to reach the rural audience. However, these playwrights do not subscribe to the rules of Natya Shastra. These playwrights majorly influenced by the Western aesthetics, Western realism to address the existing social political issues. These post-independent contemporary playwrights take up the issues related to Indian urban youth, middle class and English language speaking society, which is undergoing a noticeable change. Issues such as violence, caste, identity, gender, patriarchy are some of the issues that are concerned with this contemporary Indian drama in English. The theme and the plot structure of these plays follow the pattern of Western realist drama. Their characters are realistic and they are very much part of everyday life. These plays represent the various strata of society and are meant for ordinary middle class urban Indians. Simultaneously, the stage setting of these plays, including light and stage design, decoration and milieu of the stage, has also undergone tremendous changes with the advent of new technology. With this, we can firmly say that Indian drama in English does not have any resemblances with its predecessor Sanskrit drama. With this, Indian drama in English has combined Western and Indian values, aesthetics, and has created a unique identity of its own. While doing it, they have rejected colonial influence and has placed their own identity in post-colonial culture, which is an attempt to rewrite the history and the culture of colonized. Social realism gets upper hand in this tradition. Social realism of this tradition discusses everyday problems and realities of the poor, working classes and marginalized sections. Another area where Indian drama in English has to face challenge and criticism is the field of language. The plays written and performed in English are still struggling to occupy a space in the world of mainstream Indian drama. A cursory glance would reveal that drama written originally in English is still in its formative stage. According to Daneshwar Nadkarni, these Anglophone playwrights need to be butchered and castrated. Commenting on his response to the plays written in English, Christopher Baum points out that Indian English playwrights and their plays from its beginning till date have suffered from economic, artistic and ideological pressures of being submerged in a rich theatrical culture of popular, religious and commercial performance traditions. Despite of the various challenges faced by these writers, they continue to write in English. Writers like Mahesh Dattani, Manjula Padmanabhan, Pratap Sharma, Gurucharan Das, Deena Mehta, Polish Sen Gupta and few others. Meanwhile, the plays written by these playwrights are rarely staged, mostly because of the lack of audience support. However, in spaces like Metropolis, these writers attract considerable attention as well as audience. While drama in English is consistently struggling to survive, the plays written in regional languages by playwrights like Vijay Tendulkar, Girish Karnad, Usha Ganguly, Mahashweta Devi, Badal Sarkar have been quite popular among the masses. Among the playwrights who have started writing in English, it is the plays of Mahesh Dattani which have attracted maximum attention of urban India, whose plays have discussed the issues of contemporary India. However, the gradual shift of younger generation from urban spaces seem to be changing and tilting towards Indian drama in English. Younger generation started looking at Indian drama a viable entertainment as well as a progressive art form that would inform and motivate them. Plays like 30 Days in September, Tara and Bravely Fought the Queen have achieved a significant popularity, while the plays of Deena Mehta and Manjula Padmanabhan written in English are still awaiting such a platform both in terms of staging and academic popularity. On the other hand, Vijay Tendulkar's plays originally written in Marathi and translated into English are widely staged and read. In this regard, Vasudha Dalmia points out that both the English and Hindi continue to share the honor of being the two important target languages of translation in the 1970s. When the question of print arises, the English language occupies an important position as it can contribute for national visibility of the plays. But in the field of performance, Hindi and other regional languages always get the upper hand. As we look at the current scenario, we see a number of young playwrights coming up with their own theatrical debut in English. Bangalore-based playwright called Abhishek Majumdar is one such playwright whose plays have been performed many times in India and abroad and included into academia. The metros like Bangalore, Mumbai are providing good platform and scope for the young playwrights to write plays in English and thereby generating a crowd for the same. Simultaneously, we see another trend in Indian theatre which also focuses on representing the contemporary Indian society and makes an attempt to rescue Indian theatre from the bondage of colonialism by going back to the Indian root and tradition. In the same period, we have the playwrights who follow the Western realist tradition to represent the Indian society, while on the other hand, we have the followers of theatre of the roots movement who attempt to represent the same through the use of myth, history, folk tale and other traditional modes of representation. The socio-cultural changes that took place in India during the post-independent period shaped the present state of Indian drama in English and also in the regional languages. The practitioners of later phase of modern Indian drama Indianized this genre by adding Indian traditional modes of performances that existed in the pre-colonial past. Thus, in Indian theatre, we see two trends that are emerging right now. One trend focuses more on going back to the roots. The second focuses more on Western realist drama. The theatre of roots is a kind of reaction against the practices of Western realist drama. Hence, in this context, let us look at Western realism and contemporary Indian drama. As we have already mentioned that the practitioners of Western realist tradition tend to write social realist drama by representing the social reality as it is, both in English and regional languages. In the post-independence period, playwrights like Mahesh Dattani, Vijay Tendulkar, Tripurari Sharma have written plays representing the existing social realities without taking recourse to myth and history and other traditional forms of Indian representation. The British rule brought Indian theatre into direct contact with Western theatre, and from then onward, the Indian theatre picked up tradition of realism. For the first time in India, the writing and practice of theatre is geared fully towards realistic or naturalistic representation, and the stories of common people gained much importance in these writings. The contemporary Indian theatre developed during the mid-19th century contains many plays which are based on social realism and in many Indian languages. The first proscenium theatres were established in Mumbai and Calcutta in 1860s. Then it passed on to north and southern India. Commenting on the practice of Western realist tradition by a number of contemporary Indian playwrights, Habib Tanvir says that the urban theatre of India only practically reflects the fundamental features of Indian culture. It is imitative by and large and tries to ape the conventions of the Western theatre. At its worst, it represents the pale copy of most worn out Western theatre traditions. And at its best, it reflects new Western forms recently evolved through a rigorous process of experimentation. However, there are theatre groups in Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, and many other places who have engaged in experimentation with Indian folk theatre form and creating original work of valuable nature. With this statement, Habib Tanvir refers to the theatre of roots, which was popularized by Girish Karnad and many others. So, the theatre of roots, as I mentioned already, tries to free Indian drama from its Western influence. They would like to go back to the past. They would like to revisit the myth, history, and blend the theatrical tradition with mythology and the glorious past. Writers like Girish Karnad popularized this tradition by dealing his plays with mythology and Indian history. Playwright like Erin B. Mee calls this effort by them as an act of decolonizing Indian theatre. According to Mee, the theatre of roots, street theatre, and English language theatre are three among many kinds of theatre flourishing in India today. On the proscenium and non-proscenium stages in various locations of this country in different languages, structures, and the forms, these playwrights have made a concentrated effort to go back to the traditional roots and liberate Indian theatre from the Western impacts. Girish Karnad, K.N. Panikkar, Ratan Thiam, Habib Tanvir are some of the leading spirits of this movement. According to Suresh Avasthi, who coined the term theatre of roots, the modern Indian theatre is a product of colonial culture and it needed a break to go back and search for roots. most intensely to match its violent dislocations from its traditions. Besides, it is a rejection of proscenium stage by the directors and the playwrights and the use of a variety of performances spaces to establish a close relationship between audience and actors. Although the practice of following Western realist tradition has been criticized and challenged, even the theatre of roots could not make Indian theatre free from the Western influence, which still continues to exert its impact in Indian art and literature. So, apart from this theatre of roots, we have several movements that are emerging from different spheres and different ideologies. One of such movement is women theatre. When we say women theatre, it refers to whole gamut of productions, plays, playwrights written by women, written for women, and written on issues of women by men as well. Women's theatre is an exclusively women's domain, while the feminist theatre in the Indian context, unlike in the West, also includes plays about women by men. For example, the plays such as Silence, The Court is in Session by Vijay Tendulkar and Nagamandala by Girish Karnad are also considered as feminist plays. The well-known street play Woman, Aurat by Jananatya Manch, led by Safdar Hashmi, a male playwright, is also popularly known as feminist play. In Indian context, Professor Tutur Mukherjee offers an appropriate and convincing definition of the term women's theatre. It is a politically nounced theatre that is oriented towards change and produced by women with feminine concerns. She calls it forward-looking step trying to break away from reductionism and also locates gender identity in the flux of socio-historical processes. It is the product of feminism. Feminine awareness shapes the making of the play. One should look at the reasons behind the emergence of women's theatre to understand what women theatre stands for. Indian theatre tradition, historically a male dominated theatre tradition in which men has been writing about all the issues, identities, histories, and also about women. However, women never get a chance to discuss, deliberate their issues of identity, inner world, philosophy, and their struggles. So, this crisis gave rise to women theatre, under which certain prominent playwrights started focusing on the issues of women that concerns women's problems, and these writers, both men and women, started writing plays about women's issues, contemporary domestic violence, troubled gender relations, complex idea of gender. Hence, this women's theatre has become more popular after 90s, since many women started focusing and started writing plays about themselves. In the Indian theatrical scenario, the appearance of women playwrights is rather a late development. The achievements of women in the field of theatre have not received adequate importance yet. Tutur Mukherjee says that in India, the emergence of women's theatre history is a late 19th century phenomenon. Before that, also plays were written about women and women were part of dramatic performances, but they remained hidden. In the entire history of development of Sanskrit drama, there was hardly any discussion of a play written and directed by a woman. There are women performers, dancers, choreographers, but they were not visible till the late 19th century. A remarkable increase in the women's participation in theatre as a playwrights, director, performers was seen in the last 3 decades of the 20th century. The lives of Indian women are far more circumscribed than the Western counterparts, and the Indian women playwrights try to represent it via their dramatic writings. These playwrights share the same thematic pattern, such as the representation of women's relationship, their struggles, their journey towards emancipation, and so on. They are not resistant to the influence of Western feminism, but their chief motive seems to be to sensitize the receptors of their text to the problems faced by women in Indian society. As part of this women's theatre tradition, number of playwrights like Dinta Mehta, Polisian Gupta, Manjula Padmanabhan have started writing plays in English, scripting the concerns of women and their issues. Besides that, there are few playwrights, prominent playwrights such as Mahashweta Devi, Usha Ganguly and Shanta Gokhale, who have written in various regional languages which are later translated into English, have become more popular, and these playwrights have focused on issues of women, gender and its identities. Apart from these plays written by women, scholars like Professor Tunan Mukherjee, whose book Staging Resistance, Plays by Women in Translation, compiled various plays written by women, talks about women, is one of the important book to understand women's theatre in this country. While discussing Indian theatre in the present time, we often tend to use the terms like modern and contemporary very loosely to refer to the theatre developed in the post-independence period without taking into account the fact that influence of modernity in India was felt in the pre-colonial period itself, in the late 18th and 19th century. Hence, the term contemporary would be more convincing to refer to the theatre developed and produced during the post-independent period. Hence, Indian theatre tradition has a long history right from Sanskrit drama to the debates about contemporary and modern. In this module, we have looked at the history of Indian drama and Indian drama in English. We started with Sanskrit drama and its influence on Indian drama. Then we moved on to the drama that is concerned with the masses, issues of masses, theatre of roots, which again brought back the Indian aesthetics, Indian values to the Indian drama. The theatre of roots as a movement countered effectively the theatre which is influenced by Western ideals and aesthetics. Hence, there is a confrontation of values, aesthetics right from the beginning in Indian drama. Apart from these key movements, we have new movements that are emerging that would endorse certain ideologies, certain struggles, such as women's theatre. Women's theatre has been a phenomenal theatre tradition which focused on gender relationships, gender construction and exploitations on the women. More importantly, women's theatre has focused on issues like gender and relationship of different genders. Hence, in this module, we have seen evolution of Indian theatre right from the Sanskrit drama to contemporary drama, which is more concerned and pertinent towards contemporary issues, political, economic concerns of the masses. So far, in this module, we have looked at the evolution of Indian drama and Indian drama in English. We have started with Indian drama in Sanskrit, which has its roots that has come from Vedas and Upanishads. From Sanskrit drama, Indian drama in regional languages have dealt with several issues and has undergone different movements. The prominent movements are theatre of roots, theatre that concerned with the masses, the issues of masses, oppressed sections. Then we have a unique theatre tradition called women's theatre, which endorsed and fought for women's rights and used this form to talk about women's issues. Hence, Indian drama, both in English and its regional languages, has a long history to go, and it has several movements, several confrontations in terms of values, aesthetics between West and the East, and theatre tradition has been quite bright and dynamic. For further studies and references, kindly look at e-text and the references. Thank you.